So Kiss are embarking on their farewell tour, hanging up those platform boots. Thank heavens for that, some of you might say. But what are the really deep cuts we'd like to see them dust off? Welcome classic rock fans to our Kiss Top 10, and today we're going to look at the 10 numbers, the rarities and offcuts and rarely played, that I'd love to see this band shake off and dig out for the final few days of this tour. Not that they will, of course. They're too ingrained in giving the punters what they want. No further ado, here are the numbers that I would love to see this band play. Number 10 is Not for the Innocent from 1983. This comes from Lick It Up. Of course, Lick It Up, in my opinion, is their finest non-makeup album. Wonderful tune, very eerie, sinister guitar riff, song written by Simmons and Vinnie Vincent. That was the B-side of Lick It Up, the 7-inch single that came in that wonderful poster bag, if you remember. This song had been knocking about before the Lick It Up album. In fact, there's a demo of it on the Creatures of the Night box set. This song represents the nastiness that this band had at the very beginning, before they decided they wanted to be Casey and the Sunshine Band. Number 9 is Rock and Roll Hell from 1982, a fine bit of songwriting from Gene Simmons where he sings from the heart rather than the codpiece. Of course, this song is inspired by the intra-band relationships, shall we say, the problems that he was having with Ace and Peter previously. Finally venting his spleen in this roar of "Get Me Out of This Rock and Roll Hell." This comes from arguably Kiss's greatest album, or one of the greatest albums they ever did, and that is the fabulously heavy Creatures of the Night, which came in 1982. This album, of course, is the album where the band would rediscover their mojo after their concept album and pop years, shall we say. Great opening bass line to this. Not sure if this has been performed live since the Creatures tour. Number 8 is Nowhere to Run from 1982. This is a Stanley penned number that found a home on the Killers compilation album, which saw Simmons sporting a strangely shorn Barnett, probably to help facilitate his acting career. Of course, on the Animalized tour, he'd go out in a syrup, wouldn't he? The band have toyed with this number, but never actually played it. They've started it in rehearsals and acoustic sets, but they've never actually played it in its entirety. I think Stanley would, and the vocals are up there, aren't they? So I think Stanley might struggle to mime to this one. Great guitar riff at the start, and the melody is just a gem from a rather tricky period of history. Number 7 is Tomorrow from 1980. Of course, Tomorrow features on their Unmasked album, probably their poppiest album. When you listen to this album, it's hard to reconcile that the band that did Shandy, Lucky Shandy, was the same band that did Deuce and Watching You. But however, this is a light-hearted, fun bit of pop froth, isn't it? The song has never been played live, in my opinion. I don't believe it's ever been played live before. So it'd be nice to see them dust this one off. Great chorus. Not a huge fan of the album overall. It's okay. It's got some quite infectious pop tunes on it. I'm rather a fan of. I should lower my voice here. I'm rather a fan of She's So European. I quite like that number. And of course, Ace's Talk to Me is always wonderful to hear. And number 6 is a real classic Kiss gem, and that is Coming Home from Hotter Than Hell. Hotter Than Hell came out in 1974. I think it was the second album of that year. This is a fabulous album, or garage rock, or garage maybe, as you guys might say. Even to the point where Anthrax, I think, covered the song Parasite on one of their records. This was written by Stanley and Frehley, and it has a real triumphant feel and an energy that began to fizzle away as the band moved into the late 70s, especially when we get into all the drugs, booze and sackings that ensued. And not to mention their occasional visit to Boogie Wonderland. Number 5 is The Oath from 1981, from their misguided conceptual faux that saw the Demon warbling A World Without Heroes and shedding a tear, no doubt contemplating the amount of money this band were prepared to lose. It's a last World Without Heroes is a lush number, lusher than a Kleenex forest, I think Lester Bangs might say. but very un-Kiss, isn't it? Which is the problem. This band had been un-Kiss from 79 onwards. But the Oath is a powerful opening number and perhaps the best track on the album. And playing this would please all those deluded souls that adore this album with their crayons and tubs of jello. Number 4 is Magic Touch from 1979. I love this number. This is from the Disco album, of course. And despite this album definitely being a step in the wrong direction, the quality of the tunage and songs was definitely there, as this band chose to cash in on a generation that had surrendered their hearts, minds and trousers to the latest musical fad. The disco phase, so to speak. Kiss are a band that are not exactly as Molière would describe as clothed with integrity, with Simmons always looking for the next cash cow to unseemly violate. Despite this album's detractors and Kiss fans that prefer not to listen to this, I listen to it quite often because I really like it. I mean, I do like a good tune, I must admit. And there's an awesome bit of songwriting here as well. Magic Touch is a great song, and beautiful, almost sublime middle section, which, as I've said before, I don't think Stanley would be able to sing these days. Not without the help of some embellishments, I think their management call it. Although I do believe that Stanley did dust this one off for his solo tour not so long ago. Well, say not so long ago, it's probably 7 or 8 years ago by now. Number 3 is one of my favourites, All American Man from 1977, the Alive 2 album, side 4, in fact. This song has been dusted off. I think Stanley performed it live. I think Kiss have performed it live as well, or maybe one of their recent tours, but I love this song. It's rarely played. It's a brilliant number and it's sung in a low register, which means Stanley would, I think, be able to manage this fairly well. Great, meaty guitar opener, of course, and some nice lead lines by Ace, or not by Ace, we can never be sure, can we? It's just a great vocal melody from Stanley, and I would just love to hear them do this one. Number 2 is Larger Than Life from 1977, a wonderful number from their Alive 2 album, side 4 once more. A great tune by Simmons doing what he does best, and that is singing about his cock. And I love the guitar riff at the start of this, and the lead solo is absolutely sublime. However, the guitar work on this was Bob Kulick, not Ace Frehley. I remember listening to this years ago and thinking this just doesn't sound like Ace. Ace may have done the opening guitar riff and the backing track, so to speak, and maybe it's just Kulick that solos on it, I'm not sure, but it's one of those Kiss but not Kiss numbers, if you like, where Ace, being perhaps a little bit indisposed, shall we say, was just unable to play. But it has a real presence and growl to it, as that's when Kiss are at their very best. One of my favourite Kiss tunes, and I think it was performed quite recently, actually for the first time on the Kiss Cruise. You can find a video of that, but it's a rare one, there's no doubt about that. And number 1 is perhaps my favourite Kiss number, one of my favourites anyway, and that's Killer. Killer comes from 1982, and it comes from their wonderful Creatures of the Night album, an album that bludgeons you. It's really heavy fare. It's a Kiss tune that's stabbing and nasty, just what you want Kiss to be, really, and especially sung by Simmons, who has the perfect voice for that kind of atmosphere. This song was the B-side of the I Love It Loud 7-inch single. Do you remember that? With the little tab you pulled out and the tongue came out. But I've loved this song from day one. It has a heaviness, and I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a number that I love. That this band have never, as far as I know, this band have never played this live. This really feeds into his demonic persona, not the comic book appropriation of with something like God of Thunder, but something that is genuinely ugly and malevolent. Anyway, that's my 10 Kiss numbers. I would love to see this band play live, but I suspect never will. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this matter down below. And I apologise, of course, for being a big Kiss fan. I know it goes against the grain of my liking of Topographic Oceans and King Crimson. So if you've enjoyed this video, please do click like, subscribe, and check that notification bell. It makes all the difference. And do consider some of the links below this video for ways you can support the sterling work done at Classic Album Review. It's always much appreciated. Anyway, I hope you're well, you're staying safe, and that you keep listening.